We are continuing on the halachot of 3 weeks, and today we're going to discuss the halachot of Erev Tisha B'Av and Seudah Mafseket. Generally speaking, on Erev Tisha B'Av, we have a highest level of avelut. Again, it's a growing restriction starting from Shivasar Tammuz, and the 3 weeks until Rosh Chodesh Av, then that until the week of Tisha B'Av, and that until Erev Tisha B'Av. Erev Tisha B'Av and Seudah Mafseket is the highest level, obviously before the Tisha B'Av itself. After Chatzot, people stop learning things that are not related to the Tisha B'Av itself. And normally speaking, Seudah Mafseket is a very restricted Seudah, because you cannot eat many things. And we did at the Gemara already, from the Gemara itself, we have extended that, but from the Gemara itself, you cannot eat meat or drink wine. You can't even have two different types of food. You have to have one type, and that you sit separately, you sit on the floor. All of that would not be applicable on a year that you have Erev Tisha B'Av falling on Shabbat, because that would make your Seudah Mafseket Seudah Shlishit, basically, of Shabbat, and obviously that is a Seudah that's mitzvah, and on Shabbat you cannot show any sign of avelut in public form in that way. So therefore, you could have afidu kis'udat shlomo b'shat malchuto. You could even have a fancy, nice seudah with meat and all of that. Whatever is considered a normal seudat Shabbat, you could have, and that is both when Tisha B'Av falls to be on Shabbat and the Ta'anit is pushed to Sunday, or Tisha B'Av falling on Sunday lechatchila. Those are both the same. Ochlim basar v'shotim yain b'seudah mafseket. You could drink wine. You could have meat. U'ma'aleh al shulchano kis'udat Shlomo HaMelech b'shad malchuto. You could have a fancy seudah, and you're not even allowed to do the regular restrictions. Ve'eno rashai le'imana ma'achilat basar v'shtiyat yain mipnei ha'evel. You're not allowed to say, "Oh, I'm not going to eat meat because it's avelut." If you normally eat meat on Seudah Shlishit, you should do the same thing on Seudah Mafseket, as well as the kavod of Shabbat and the kavod of Seudah Shlishit. And then you stop, obviously a few minutes before Shkia, and you bench. That obviously is going to be the same, even though the normally speaking Seudah Shlishit would go well into the night. Here, obviously, you cannot eat after Shkia. Even beforehand, we want to stop a few minutes, and you should not be drinking, intoxicating beverages, even when it falls to be on Shabbat. The wine is fine, but you want to come into Tisha B'Av with a clear head. You don't want to be drunk. Obviously, you cannot daven arvit, but a person is tipsy or under influence of alcohol. But again, so that Shabbat, you could have wine, you could have drinks, whatever is a necessity for the Seudah, a person could have. Now, other years, people don't also bench together. They eat separately, they bench separately, they don't do mezuman, and that restriction also does not apply on a year that you have Tisha B'Av falling on Sunday. The Ta'anit, you could not just eat fancy, but you could also sit together on the table and bench like a normal Shabbat. HaMinhag, again, the minhag is lis'ot seudah mafseket kshem yoshvim al haaretz. The general minhag is you sit on the floor, eat seudah mafseket. You cannot do that on a year as such that the Tisha B'Av falls to be on Sunday, so you can't sit on the floor. That's showing avelut on Shabbat. Obviously, you cannot do that. And same would be with eating together and saying the Birkat HaMazon together as well. Now, this brings us to the actual restrictions of Tisha B'Av itself. Now, Tisha B'Av is one of the only Ta'anit, basically, that we have nowadays, that we act as though it is Ta'anit. Now, regular Ta'anit, it should be starting from before nightfall, going until tomorrow nightfall. And this is how any Ta'anit Sibur used to be. Nowadays, we don't have, for most of the minor, what we call minor fasts, we don't do as it was instituted, because many of those dates are not at the same level of Avelut. But Tisha B'Av we have accepted to keep as the regular halachot of Ta'anit, which would be starting from before nightfall, before the start of the day, until tomorrow after nightfall. So that explains why Tisha B'Av is different than all the other, what we call minor fasts, that the other ones start from the morning, right? And you don't have any of the restrictions of, lotion and washing hands and, neilat sandal. You don't have any of those restrictions, because it's a lighter level that we have accepted, kind of like a middle ground, to keep in these days, because the real takara and the way it was does not apply nowadays, Baruch Hashem. So we have a lighter level, but by Ta'anit of Tisha B'Av, we have accepted it to be a full-fledged Ta'anit Sibur, so that would follow the pattern of the biblical fast, which is Ta'anit of Yom Kippur. And Ta'anit of Yom Kippur, you have to start from before nightfall, you go until the next day, nightfall, and you have all these 5 restrictions of Neilat Sandal and Tashmish Hamita, and the prohibition against lotions of Sicha, right? Obviously, drinking and eating. All of those 5 inuim apply on Tisha B'Av as well, because this was the fast that was accepted by Klal Yisrael to be a full-fledged Ta'anit D'Rabbanan, and therefore it follows those patterns. So now let's learn some of these halachot together. Tisha B'Av asur ba'achila v'shtiya v'afilu meubarot u'menekot mit'anot u'mashlimot. Even pregnant and nursing women, they are obligated to fast on Tisha B'Av, just like by Yom Kippurim. Again, this is a Gemara, a whole sugya in Masechet Psachim, Daf Nun Dalet, and Maran Shcharuch paskins this in Shcharuch Orachaim, Siman Tav Kuf Nun Dalet. And the Chazal tell us that Kol ha'ochel ve'shoteh b'Tisha B'Av lo yizke lir'ot b'simchat Yerushalayim. Anyone that's lenient and doesn't fast properly on Tisha B'Av will not see the simcha of Yerushalayim. V'chol ha'mit'abel al Yerushalayim. And on a positive note, anyone that mourns Yerushalayim, zocheh ve'ro'eh b'simchatah, he will merit to see the rebuilding and the simcha of Yerushalayim, as the pasuk says, simchu et Yerushalayim v'giru bah. You should be happy, you should rejoice with Yerushalayim. Kol ohaveh, all of those who loved it. Sisu itam masos, be happy. Kol ha'mitabelim aleha, all the people who were mitabel. Now, we mentioned this once, that the Vilna Gaon differentiates between the language of Sason and Simcha. Simcha is a surge of happiness, a momentary surge of happiness that gives you a certain level of Simcha. Sason is a continuous level of happiness, right? And Sisu itam masos means that forever a person would be zocheh to be happy with Yerushalayim. Those people who cared about Yerushalayim, those people who who it mattered to them, that when it was destroyed, they cared and they remembered it and they mourned Yerushalayim. Now forever you're going to be meriting a rejoicing in their life, a rejoicing that includes the Simcha of Yerushalayim. That's a tremendous, tremendous blessing. Yoledet at Shiv'a Yamim achar lidata asur la be'echled lit'anot b'Tisha B'Av. A woman that gave birth until 7 days is asur for her to fast on Tisha B'Av. She can't, even if she wants to. It's not mutar for her to fast. And from 7 days until 30 days is patur from fasting. It's not asur for her, but she doesn't need to. So it really depends on her situation. If if she says that she she doesn't want to do it, she doesn't do it. Also includes this heter, this ptur, any chole she'en bo sakana. Chole she'en bo sakana is a person that's sick enough that is bed rest. Right? Not just a regular headache, not just a regular weakness, but someone that is sick enough that they have to rest on bed, and they are bedridden, so to speak. That chole she'en bo sakana also is patur from the ta'anit of Tisha B'Av. So that includes menekot, people who, the yoledet, someone that just gave birth, that until 7 days is asur, until 30 days is patur, and a chole she'en bo sakana also is patur from the fast of Tisha B'Av. Now, how about a person that didn't give birth to a baby, but they had a miscarriage? As they were pregnant, and they miscarried, unfortunately. So is that considered leda or not? Well, the halacha is, yes, it is considered a giving birth, even though that it didn't end with a viable fetus. It still would be, as far as her experience, she experienced the same weakness and the same difficulty as a yoledet, and therefore all 30 days after the hapala, as well as far as this was, as long as this was a pregnancy that halacha recognizes, the 30 days afterwards she does not have to fast on Tisha B'Av. And a sick person that we mentioned that is mutar to eat on Tisha B'Av, a chole she'en bo sakana, and also a woman that has been a yoledet within the 30 days, ochlim b'Tisha B'Av ke'ergelam tamid. They could eat normally. It's not like Yom Kippur that they have to, eat less than kazayit, less than kotevet kasa every 9 minutes, every 10 minutes. You don't have to do shiurim on Tisha B'Av. Once it's mutar for you to eat, you could sit down by a regular meal and eat. Now, you don't want to have maybe chocolate and ice cream. You want to stay away from things that are meant for pleasure, that perhaps you want to do because you have some regard to the day being a serious day. But as far as the eating is concerned, you don't have any restrictions of that sort. You could still have a regular meal, sit down and have a shiur. You don't have to do pachot mika shiur, but Yom Kippur obviously is different. Now, how about saying nachem in Birkat Hamazon? A sick person that's eating, right, a nice seudah, should they be saying nachem in Birkat Hamazon? And the answer is, says Chacham Ruben, no. Why? Because it's correct. Because there was never a takana of nachem in Birkat Hamazon. There's no takana of nachem in Birkat Hamazon because you're not supposed to be eating, right? And therefore, even though that we, generally speaking, mention anything that has happened, all the me'en ha'me'ora is mentioned always in Birkat Hamazon, right? If it's Rosh Chodesh, you mention Ya'aleh v'yavo. If it's Shabbat, yes. Yom Tov, yes. You have special inserts for everything in Birkat Hamazon, but those are times that you're supposed to be eating, right? You have no prohibition. Here, you are a yotzei min haklal. This is not a normal setting, and therefore, it was never instituted for Birkat Hamazon to be said with Nachem, and hence you're not going to be saying Nachem. That brings us to the other areas of restriction of washing, bathing, and putting lotion and so on, which Be'ezrat Hashem will discuss and learn together in the days to come. Hazak Baruch.